patient because the green flag is about halfway up the hill. Perfect start from our pole sitter. And Shinya Mishimi in the number 46 with a great getaway, but Alex Popoff and Jonathan Chicotto both right on the tail, and Jonathan Chicotto is looking for second already. He's going out the inside line. Popoff trying to go the long way around turn 2 and get by the number 46, our pole sitter, and he goes off track, and Popoff with a big hit on the number 10 car. That was Stephen McAleer starting, and the two of them shoved off the circuit, Jeremy, at turn 2. Let's see if they can get moving again, though, because they are on the harder sand. They're not on the gravel. Can they continue? Can they get back to the pit lane? It's a long way to go, and Stephen McAleer with broken rear suspension. Yeah, and 2 punctures as well, so quite a bit of damage to that number 10 car. That was a most unfortunate incident there with Alex Popoff trying to go around the outside, and he was kind of ushered off the road on the exit there, wasn't he, by one of the other contenders. Also damage to Taylor Proto. That is our championship leader in car number 50. That's a replay there. Side-by-side contact between Shinya Mishimi and Popoff. And yeah, that was a most unfortunate incident. Also, Brian Thienes off the road as well. And Brian Thienes, who's been off the road a couple of times so far this weekend, he was the cause of 2 red flags in 2 practice sessions, but redeemed himself yesterday by getting a win. Severe damage to the front of that number 69 being driven by Alex Popoff. The left front is missing. The headlight is dangling down. We are still under green flag condition as it is right now. So for the close of lap 1, Jonathan Chicotto is our leader as a result of that contact between Mishimi and Popoff, knocking both cars while off balance. Corey Lewis is in second in the number 29 Change Racing Lamborghini, and Shinya Mishimi has fallen back to third as now the full course caution is being displayed as Popoff's car is stationary just outside of turn 3. Yeah, and that was just kind of one of those racing incidents, I think, at the start there. I mean, Shinya Mishimi, he's trying to maintain his pole position. Car number 50 has crossed the pit in line while the pits was closed. And this is huge championship implications, Jeremy, because coming into the race today, the 50 was our leader. Indeed, by a 5-point margin coming into today's race. Unofficially, the results of yesterday have not yet been finalized. But he had no choice but to bring that car into the pit lane, but it is in violation of regulation. So if they're able to get that number 50 car repaired and out again, he would have to serve a penalty. Let's watch Popoff going around. He was just ushered off the track by Mishimi. He was being a bit aggressive there. They were both being aggressive, which is fair enough at the start of the race. And clearly Mishimi there had the preferred line. He was 3/4 of a car length ahead coming off that corner, and Alex probably, with the benefit of hindsight, perhaps might have lifted off there and just tucked in behind him. He tried to make the move. He wasn't clearly alongside him coming out of the corner, so they weren't exactly wheel to wheel by any means. I don't think you can really blame Mishimi for that contact. The damage is on both the front and the rear of that number 50 car, the one which came in leading the championship for today's race. It was a big hit for poor Stephen McAleer, who was caught out on the left side of the racetrack, driver's left, a victim of that with a big hit. And Alex Popoff is going to be getting out of his number 69 Lamborghini. So the car that started second and on the Pro-Am pole will not be continuing in today's race. No, that's most unfortunate there for Alex, due to be sharing that car with William Hubble this weekend. Those two making a return. They didn't make the last couple of rounds actually, either at Road America or VIR, but they will take no further action in this race. There is number 50 car on pit lane, and the US Racetronics team trying to figure out what they can do. What they do need to do is, in order to score championship points, they need to get that car back out in the race and complete 70% of the distance. So that's going to be a tall order for that team. Well, and the car did enter a closed pit lane, because when the full course caution comes out, the pit lane is closed. All right, it had some damage, so it did have to come in. And obviously the driver, Taylor Proto, not feeling that the car was safe to continue around the safety car. Otherwise, he would have waited for the pit window to open. But the team also has to be careful with what sort of work they do on the car while the pit lane is closed to avoid incurring a further penalty. Is that Taylor out of the car standing and staring at the front of it, Jeremy? I believe it is. incident involving cars 10 and 69, so that's McAleer and Popoff, is under review. Race control is taking a further look at that, and that's not a good sign. There was a driver just jumping back over the pit wall in the pit lane from the number 50 machine. So the championship leader, in order to score points, as you rightly say, you need to complete 70% of the race. If you don't, you score 0. So that would be a huge swing in the points.
Yeah, it would. They came in here with a 5-point edge over Corey Lewis and Madison Snow. Let's have another look at this incident once again. Tracking off the corner there, and Popoff there is. Yeah, McAleer had nothing to do with that.
No,
I mean,
but
he was just the innocent victim.
He was behind Popoff at the start. He saw that Popoff was pushed off the side of the course and drove to driver's left to try and get away from it. Yeah. And Popoff speared across the track, and it looked like Proto was behind them and just sort of got drawn into the contact off the track as well. Exactly,
as Popoff car veered across the road, everybody behind pretty much there, left with nowhere to go. Bold move around there outside there by Alex the Venezuelan, and he's almost alongside at one stage, but as you can see quite clearly there, he didn't have the preferred line, and those guys behind were just caught up in that incident. So where that says under review there, number 46 will be part of that review process as well.
And Taylor Proto with nowhere to go, no fault of his own for being caught up in that incident. He was already off to the left side of the racetrack, and he can't press the cloak of invisibility and make his car disappear, so it's just unfortunate.
And the pit lane is now open, having completed one lap behind the safety car, so now the US Racetronics guys can go to work on that car and see if there's any way to get it repaired and back out on the racetrack to at least complete some laps here, and hopefully even better score some points. But as I said, Piscopo and Taylor Proto. Piscopo, by the way, qualified on pole position yesterday in the pro class and ended up winning the race overall with a late very interesting strategy right at the end of the pit window, at the very end of the race, because of a long red flag period. But he was able to hand over that car to Taylor Proto, who got out onto the racetrack just before the safety car came out again, because there was another incident at the end of the race. So the race finished under caution, but he was able to get out there onto the racetrack and ended up with the victory. So that was great news for their championship aspirations. Today, however, not the case at all, and also very much in contention in the championship, just 5 points behind Corey Lewis and Madison Snow, are Brandon Gudovic and Shinya Michimi. At the moment, Corey Lewis is ahead of Shinya Michimi on the road right now. They are second and third behind Jonathan Cicotto, who dodged all the bullets there and emerged in the lead in car number 1. There was a 5 points then between the number 29 car and number 46 coming into the race today.
42 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in this race, so still a lot of racing to go. Your leader is the number 1, Jonathan Cicotto, ahead of Corey Lewis in the 29, and then Shinya Michimi. Pro-Am lead goes to J.C. Perez in the number 71 Lamborghini for P1 Motorsports. Right behind him on track is the Am leader, the 09 of Damon Oakey, who has Ryan Hardwick and Martin Barkey, as well as Cameron Castle. So the top 4 in the Am class running line astern. In LB Cup, it is Brett Meredith, who is 9th overall at the moment. And then rounding out the top 10, Pippa Mann in the number 63, a Pro-Am entrant. She's sharing the car this weekend with Mike Hedlund. And we welcome Mike to the championship. Damon.
And also now is running, this morning is running in second position. Good start there by Martin Barkey, by the way, in car number 67. He's moved his way up from 13th position on the starting grid to 7th position now, and 3rd in the Am class. He's sharing that car with Shea Holbrook, who did an excellent job yesterday.
If you're new to this championship, you might be wondering, how come we have some cars with 1 driver and some cars with 2? How is that fair? Well, there is a mandatory pit stop that takes place in the middle of this race between, but about halfway down, so that everybody gets an opportunity to get equal driver time should they choose to split it that way. If you are coming onto the pit lane for a 2-driver duo, you must spend 84 seconds from pit in to pit out. If you're driving by yourself, it's 87 seconds. So that is how IMSA has declared it to be a more equal and fair opportunity. And Jeremy, it's worked out really well this year. That 3-second gap seems to be just exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yes, unfortunately, however, in the Pro and Pro-Am classes, you have to have two drivers sharing a car for this year. But in Am and LB Cup, the two lesser experienced categories, you have a choice. You can either do it solo or you can have a co-driver. And in the Am class, the only co-driver situation is car number 67. Well, yesterday, with after a full course caution, everybody came into the pits together, or several cars came into the pits together. The number 67 car had been behind, but because of that shorter pit stop time, it came out ahead. And that was Martin Barkey who took over the wheel from Shea Holbrook. And the previous leader, Damon Oakey, because he's had a longer pit stop mandated, he came out behind him and he was kind of caught unawares when Martin didn't get on the throttle quite when he thought he was going to, coming out of the Andretti hairpin. That was what led to that incident and the penalty for Damon. So it does work well, and the reason for the discrepancy is that if a driver's driving the entire 50-minute race solo, he knows from the first into the race how the car is handling, what the track conditions are like. But for the driver hopping in at the pit stop, he or she has to get used to the handling characteristics of the car at that moment and how the track feels as well. So it takes a little bit of time to get up to speed, therefore, and that is why there is that 3-second discrepancy. And generally speaking, it works out well, but unfortunately, yesterday it was exactly that effectively caused the problem. But hey, that's just one of those things that happens.
Both of the Lamborghinis that were too damaged to drive back to the pit lane have been loaded onto the flatbeds and escorted off of the racetrack. We should be seeing the safety car pulling away ever so slightly as they come through the bottom of the corkscrew after such a huge fall. We should be getting ready to go back to green. Safety car into the pit lane. We are going racing once again in round 10 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series Championship, and these drivers have been waiting a very long time for their opportunity to put the pedal to the metal. Green flag in the air. Jonathan Cicotto sees it, and nobody alongside of him. So Corey Lewis, Shinya Mishimi, and JC Perez, the top 4 cars in a line. Cicotto with no one in front of him going into turn 1. That is a different experience for the young Italian. Corey Lewis, though, will not let that black and blue car get too far ahead, as Brett Meredith looked like he was having a look down the inside of Cameron Castle's 2 cars in 2 different classes, but they are identical in their specifications. It is the driver that makes the difference here in this series, as Pippa Mann has her hands full of Brian Thenis.
Yeah, Brian Thenis rejoining after that incident at the first corner, and car number 46 has been issued a penalty for incident responsibility, a drive-through. Yeah. Okay. So that's the call from race control. Number 46 car that was leading, coming off the hairpin. He is adjudged to have effectively ushered the number 10 car off the road. I think that's a bit harsh, quite frankly, but that's the way it's being called. And you know, it's a semi-professional series, so the stewards demand respect from the drivers effectively, and I think that is why that penalty has been called there on Shinya Mishimi. So car number 46 will have to serve a drive-through penalty, and that'll drop him right to the back of the pack.
And the number 50 from Taylor Proto, the championship leader coming in, has not resumed, and the car is still up on jacks with mechanics working in the right front. So they're still working to try and get that car back out. But as of right now, the 50 is in the pit lane. Our leader, Jonathan Cicotto, will be overly joyed to see that he has only 1 car behind him, really, that he needs to fight for the pro win with the impending penalty from the number 46. But Corey Lewis in that number 29 white Lamborghini is never somebody you want to see in your rearview mirror, because Corey, a very good driver, very, very adept and skilled. He has won many races and a championship in Lamborghinis before, including the 12 Hours of Sebring this year. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to grab the bull by the horns, if you'll forgive the pun.
Yeah, in 2015 was the Pro-Am World Champion in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, Corey Lewis, and he is dogging the wheel tracks here of Jonathan Cicotto. The youngster leads this race. Jonathan Cicotto will share this car with Trent Hinman, and they've had no luck at all this season. More bad luck yesterday. Trent Hinman was running super strong in the early part of the race, but had a problem with the brakes. It wasn't really slowing him down too much, but there was the ABS system was kind of, it wasn't working perfectly, let's put it that way. When he came in for the pit stop, he overshot his pit slightly. Jonathan got into the car, and the team manager didn't like to look at the data and retired that car. Trent wasn't very happy about that. He reckoned that Jonathan couldn't be able to continue, but the decision was made to retire the car, and so today they are looking to bounce back, and they're doing that in the best possible way right now. It's Jonathan Chicotto who leads the race for Wayne Taylor Racing in car number 1.
And he had set the fastest lap time until Corey Lewis, right behind him, stole that of the drive-through penalty. He does have 3 laps to come in and get that done, and he cannot make the mandatory pit stop when you do your drive-through penalty. That is something all on its own, so there is no way to benefit through that. Martin Barkey has his hands full as he gets attacked by Cameron Castles, the Canadian, and Brett Meredith right behind as well. Barkey and Castles fighting for the 3rd position in the AM category. Brett Meredith, the LB Cup leader, just trying to get as far up the grid as he can right now.
And this is a 50-minute race as we watch that battle heading up to the corkscrew with Martin Barkey under heavy pressure there from Cameron Castles, Brett Meredith, and also Pippa Mann right there, and Brian Thiener. So it is a super battle. And the pit stop has to be made anytime between 20 and 30 minutes into the race. So it'll be about less than 3 minutes now when the pit window will open. It'll be open for 10 minutes for all of the cars to come onto pit lane.
And you don't have to come in as soon as the window opens, but you do have to come in before the window closes, as we now can confirm the 46 serving the drive-through penalty. So that means Jonathan Chicotto, who last time around set an even faster lap, he and Corey Lewis both into the 125s as a spin as Barkey gets a little bit of help turned around. Cameron Castles slowed down, and Brian Thienes did a really nice job not to run into the back, but Barkey is still stationary in turn 2, just beyond the apex, getting the car refired and trying to get it back into gear. The good news is he is well off the racing line. He does manage to get it flipped back in the right direction, but now he's going to be quite a bit riled up as Cameron Castles had a very late look down the inside, a dive. I believe that'll be a penalty too, Jeremy, because that was not a pass that anyone saw coming.
Yes.
It opened the door for Brett Meredith, though, in the P1 Motorsports Lamborghini. So the bright green and black machine going through, saying thank you very much, and I would be more than happy to go up to 6th position overall. Martin Barkey, who will be using some not broadcastable language on the radio right now. He'll have a bit of a challenge laid out ahead of him. Martin Barkey, the only tandem driver in the AM category, sharing with Shea Holbrook a little bit later in that number 67 machine. The 47 was a two-driver lineup yesterday,
correct,
but not today.
Correct.
Yes.
Rob Eklund Jr. shared that car yesterday with Dr. Alex Marmarano, but today Rob not driving the car, so Alex will drive that car solo in car number 47.
And the incident involving cars 33, Cameron Castles, and 67, Martin Barkey, is under review. It's a little bit of Canada on Canada violence there, Jeremy.
Yes.
I'm not sure how they would feel about that. I bet both of them are saying sorry profusely. JC Perez, the Pro-Am leader, running sort of a solo race right now. He's 6 seconds behind Corey Lewis and Jonathan Chicotto fighting for the overall lead. And he's got a 2.5 second gap over another Canadian, Damon Oakey, the AM leader. So in Pro-Am, and AM, 4 out of the top 4, 3 of them are class leaders. And in LB Cup, Brett Meredith has roughly a 3 second gap over Justin Price, who's running in 2nd in the LB Cup class. Mark Proto in the 88 is running 3rd. And there is a flat tire for Martin Barkey. Oh no, in the 67, that's the corner 2, the left rear that was hit by the right front of Cameron Castle's car. Oh dear. Martin Barkey is not going to be happy right now.
No, it's twice in 2 days he's been the innocent victim down there at the Andretti hairpin.
And that was a long way back for Cameron Castles. And he has been handed incident responsibility for the contact with Martin Barkey. So that will be a drive-through, and Cameron Castles is in serving it now. Brian Thienes is also in the pit lane as the window has opened. We are just under 30 minutes to go, 29 minutes and 20 seconds. And a couple callers to the pit lane, including Pippa Mann in the 63 Pro-Am entrant. She shares and will be handing over to Mike Headland. Cameron Castles has already served his drive-through and is back out on the race circuit. Martin Barkey, who is now almost 2 laps behind Castles, though, because he has had to crawl back to the pit lane. He's done a really good job of making sure that that Pirelli doesn't come apart and damage the car, though. I'm impressed with that. As Barkey comes into the pit lane, and this kind of works for them, Jeremy, because it's within the pit window, so Barkey can get out of the car. They can put a new left rear on the beautiful blue and black Lamborghini, and Shea Holbrook can see what she can do around the circuit.
Yeah, and she was looking forward to today's race. Unfortunately, now she's got some more work to do than she had hoped for with that penalty as well, and now, not the penalty, but the incident, and now having to make a pit stop to change the tyre. The good news is they can at least change the tyre at the same time as they change drivers, because as Shea was saying, the pit window is open, and this time around with 12 laps in the books, the third place car of JC Perez is the Pro-Am leader also onto pit lane.
And that will mean Laura Spinelli taking over, a man who was very fast earlier in the week, set the pole position overall for yesterday's race. Brian Thenis managing to get around Brett Meredith. That is for position on track, not class. So 5th place for Brian Thenis now, as he is chasing back to try and catch up to Ryan Hardwick and Damon Oakey, who run 2nd and 1st respectively in the AM category. So JC Perez handing over to Laura Spinelli. Mark Proto also in the pit lane will be handing over the LB Cup car number 88 to Paris Mullins. Mike Headland leaving the pit lane in the number 63 Pro-Am car, which Pippa Mann started. Brandon Godovic now in the 46. That is slightly delayed in the Pro category due to that incident responsibility for the crash off the start of the race. He is taken over from Shinny Mashimi. Martin Barkey in the pit lane taking over, handing over to Shea Holbrook as Cameron Castles looks down the inside of Dr. Marmorano for a position on track. That would be 8th position and 4th in the AM class. This is a battle for position, Jeremy.
It is, and the heart surgeon here, Dr. Alex, is doing a pretty good job. He's getting up to speed in this car. He had some laps on Thursday during the test day. That was the first time he'd ever driven the Lamborghini. He's driven a lot of different race cars over the years, including some pretty quick ones. But this is his first experience in this car, and he's absolutely loving it. Our
leader is in the pit lane. Jonathan Ciccato brings the number 1 for Wayne Taylor Racing onto the pit lane and gets out, which means Trent Hinman, a guy who has won here with Cameron Castles, the man with the yellow mirrors on his black Lamborghini, who just made a great pass for the 4th place in AM and 8th overall. It's going to be a bit of fun for Trent Hinman driving on the racetrack with Cameron, his old driving partner. Corey Lewis is now our leader, since he is yet to come into the pit lane in the number 29 Change Racing Lamborghini. When he does come into the pit lane, he'll be handing over to his fellow Sebring 12-hour winner, Madison Snow. Damon Oakey still out on track in that number 09 Lamborghini as well, still leads the AM class, and now it is Justin Price in the 21 LB Cup contender. He leads for that class 4th overall as Corey dives into the pit lane. So the 29 is in. Damon Oakey, should he stay out, will be our race leader. Ryan Hardwick, who's got his hands full with Mike Headland. And Mike, with a really solid dive down the inside at the final turn, gets the power down early, and the pass is made. Mike is in the Pro-Am class, and Ryan, who is in Pro-Am, they're not battling for track position because Hardwick, Oakey came into the pit lane. Hardwick stays out. Hardwick is our leader. That was Mike Headland getting his lap back effectively. The driver change going on for the Lamborghini representing the dealership of Charlotte this weekend. Change Racing is. And a bit interesting, Jeremy, they started out the year representing a different dealership and switched allegiances. Still all North Carolina, though, for Change Racing. Ryan Hardwick leads on track position right now on Price and then Castles. Those three have yet to come into the pit lane to make their stop. Oki waiting patiently, not getting out of the car, not even having a bit of a drink, just staying in the zone. Let's see, who is on an L lap? Madison Snow has triggered the pit exit. So now the 29 is back on the circuit. We'll have to see where he cycles back out, if he is indeed in the lead ahead of Trent Hinman. I believe he is, Jeremy. I think the 29 got out ahead of the 1.
I think you might be right.
That would be a great pit stop then from the Change Racing organization.
No.
No, he's not. Hinman is ahead.
There goes the number 1. There goes 29 past
Ooh.
us in turn 4.
They're within sight of one another.
Yes, they are.
So that is going to be a battle that shakes out as Ryan Hardwick comes into the pit lane, gives up the overall lead. Brandon Godovic is trying to fight back for some track position right now. He is in the 9th place, having just taken that away from the 17 of Brian Thenis, who runs 4th in the AM class. But the first and second cars, the first car in the pit lane now, the second place car just coming into the pit lane, that will all cycle through and shake out and bring everybody back together. We have 3 minutes left in the pit window. So if you haven't already been in, excuse me, car number 21 and car number 33, you might want to get in soon. And Jeremy, the 50 is rolling. So Taylor Proto, the car that he brought in, and Eduardo Piscopo should be taking it back out, is on the racetrack again. The car that was leading the championship at the green flag in today's race has resumed on the racetrack. Will they be able to get enough laps in to score points? That is the question, because it comes back out on the circuit with 23 minutes remaining. I don't know if that's enough. A 50-minute race, and he spent 30, well, not quite 30, maybe 25 of them in the pit lane. It's going to be close. Ryan Hardwick exits, so now we're just waiting on the 21 and the 33. Those are the only 2 cars who have yet to make their pit stops, as finally Mr. Price decides to make the hard left turn onto the pit lane, which means Cameron Castles is the only one of our cars who hasn't done the mandatory stop. And I say mandatory stop because he did come down the pit lane to serve a penalty, and now he does come back onto the pit lane. So it will be Trent Hinman retaking the lead, which Jonathan Cicotto had from about lap 2, well, halfway around lap 1, in fairness. Madison Snow in 2nd in the 29 Change Racing Lamborghini. Laura Spinelli in 3rd, the first of the Pro-Am runners. And then for the AM class, it's still cycling itself back out. But the number 1 just going into turn 2, now hitting the apex, letting the car drift back out, pulling it tight for the second half of the apex, and then setting up for turn 3. It's a very technical part of the track after you've come across the start-finish line. All the little twisty bits, as we like to say. Trent Hinman crosses in front of us now. Madison Snow, now. So yeah, that's a 5-second
now
gap.
In 3rd position is Laura Spinelli, who was the pole sitter for yesterday's racing, car number 71, the leading Pro-Am cars. You see Dr. Alex
went for a spin at the exit of turn 5, but has kept it on the hard-standing sand, as much of an oxymoron as that sounds, and not in the gravel. Should be able to have enough traction as he turns the wheel as far over to the left as he can to try and be pointed in the right direction when he manages to re-engage the throttle, waiting for a safe opportunity. And this would be waiting for the marshals to signal him when it is clear to go. He does manage to get things going again and stays well off the racing line to get all of the dirty stuff out from underneath the car, not on the preferred line. Very nice driving, do have to say. And while we have a moment, thank you to all of our marshals and volunteers out there around WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. We could not race if it weren't for you being out there. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we hope we're putting on a good show for you this weekend. Dr. Alex, who actually spun fairly close in front of the leaders. Glad to see that he managed to get things going again and is now running just in front of Brett Meredith, our LB Cup leader, who has a, well, almost 6-second advantage over Justin Price.
A dusty moment there for Trent Hinman coming off turn 4, just using up a little bit, well, all of the exit curbing and a little bit of dirt as well.
Pushing hard then is Trent.
Yes, indeed.
Although I don't know that guy to ever not give 110%, except for when he's on fuel save mode, which he does very, very well in long-distance endurance races. Trent Hinman, a man who won a fuel-saving race earlier this year in a different IMSA sanctioned series. He is a very bright star in terms of American sports car racing, the 2017 Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion with 7 wins. He was the Pro-Am champion in 2016. He was the Continental Tire Sports Car champion in 2014, the youngest ever pole sitter in that series still to this day. And he was one of your Team USA boys. Not a bad resume for young Trent Hinman, and we expect to be calling his name for a long time yet.
Yeah, very talented guy, and super, just a heads-up driver as well. And he's loving the variety he's getting this weekend. He had a good strong run yesterday in the Continental Sports Car Challenge race. He led for a portion of it as well and was looking good. Unfortunately, he knows what tyre degradation is all about in this race. He had it yesterday, so he's making sure that he keeps these Pirelli tyres underneath him for the latter stage of this race. 17 minutes remaining.
That brings up a very good point, Jeremy. They do have the mandatory pit stop, but they don't change the tires during that. So whatever abuse your co-driver does to the tires is what you have to deal with for the second half of the race. It's why being a nice co-driver is something it's good to learn in this series. And this series is very, very good about teaching you how to be a well-rounded racing driver. 2 races per weekend. In the first race, the starting driver will then finish the second race. So you get an opportunity every weekend to experience all the responsibilities needed of being a racing driver, especially in the endurance form. It's all well and good if you can qualify and start a race, but if you can't finish a race, well, factories aren't going to look at you. And we do have a full array of drivers and experience levels in this series. We've got people like Trent Hinman, like Madison Snow, like Laura Spinelli, who want someday to be a factory-blessed driver for a major manufacturer, whether it's Lamborghini or someone else, if they're fortunate enough to get picked up by Lamborghini. We've got also drivers who are doing this for a bit of fun, like Ryan Hardwick, who owns a dealership in Atlanta. Check his Instagram if you have a bit of time, because that man lives the life we all wish we did. It's a good life to be when you get to drive a race car, and that's just the weekend job.
Yeah, and he is certainly having an awful lot of fun, but he's doing a very, very good job as well. They're running in the 6th position right now. He's second in AM behind Damon Oakey, but he is turning faster lap times. Looking at last round, yeah, he was half a second quicker than Damon Oakey last time around, but Damon's got a lead over Hardwick of around about 4 seconds, so he'll be keeping an eye on that. He'll be kept informed by his US Racetronics team, will Damon Oakey, to make sure he doesn't allow Ryan Hardwick to get too much closer. Those two in a pretty good battle for the AM Championship. Coming into the weekend, they were separated by 9 points. And with Damon Oakey's penalty yesterday, it dropped him behind Ryan Hardwick. So Ryan Hardwick came home in second place. It was Brian Thenis who won the AM class yesterday. But Damon Oakey scored another point for the pole this morning. So if he can maintain these positions right now, he will make some ground towards Ryan Hardwick in the battle for that championship.
A slight intake of breath from me. It's the number 88 of Paris Mullins, the LB Cup championship leader. Went past Dr. Alex around the inside of turn 4, and Dr. Alex didn't see him there initially, turned in, and then realized, oh no, wait, I'd better yield. It was not a position on track for anything championship-wise for Dr. Alex. He saw that Paris Mullins was trying to make his way through and catch back up to Brett Meredith, and very, very smartly moved out of the way. I'm impressed with Dr. Alex this weekend, I do have to say, in the number 47.
Yeah, it's a lot of car, this certainly, and he's had a couple of revolutions, but undaunted, carries on and continues his learning curve.
Madison Snow now has a green machine in his rearview mirror. Loris Spinelli has caught up to the 29 white Change Racing Lamborghini and is closing in rapidly. They are separated by 1.1 seconds the last time through. Loris Spinelli, who we know is really fast, will also be aware of the fact that Madison Snow is thinking championship at this stage. The competitors that they are trailing in the championship, the Change Racing organization, are currently in the 15th position, having just pulled back into the pit lane. I don't think they are going to be scoring points today, Jeremy, for the 50 car. The 29 will have heard on the radio. Madison Snow will be aware of the fact that the 50 is struggling and knows maximum championship points today. Don't throw away a second place finish just because there's somebody else behind you.
Yeah, true.
Great battle going on between Damon Oakey and Mike Hedlund. Two different classes, albeit, but on track for the 4th position as Oakey cedes to Mike Hedlund going into turn 2. Beautifully done. Mike Hedlund, who's got to be grinning from ear to ear driving one of these things.
Yeah, loving it. He found his way past Ryan Hardwick a couple of laps ago, closed up onto the tail of Damon Oakey, has made that position as well. So now his sights next will be set on Loris Spinelli, who is the Pro-Am leader in 3rd place. But Loris Spinelli is well ahead of, almost half a minute ahead, so I don't think he's going to be able to catch him unless something very strange goes on, or unless Loris Spinelli has some sort of a problem. But this has been an excellent debut for Mike Hedlund. He's from Woodside, California, up in the Bay Area, and he has driven a lot of different cars over the years, and a lot of different cars here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but he is absolutely grinning from ear to ear whenever you start talking to him about this Lamborghini.
I hope we'll get to see more of Mike in this series next year. It's a good fit for him, as Madison Snow is 4.5 seconds back from Trent Hinman. That gap has been stable, but now Loris Spinelli, 0.3 of a second, not even. He's alongside Madison Snow going into turn 3, gets the pass done. Madison, very respectful, clearly with championship ringing in the back of his brain. Let Spinelli go through, and now we have a Pro Car Pro-Am, Pro Car Pro-Am. It was not any effect at all for points for Madison. He is okay taking home 2nd place, but he made a very wise move there not to debate the track position for 2nd overall.
Yeah, for Madison Snow, this is certainly good for their championship aspirations. They're going to make some ground, potentially quite a bit of ground, on Eduardo Piscopo and Taylor Proto, and quite likely take over the championship lead if they can just maintain that 2nd position, or 3rd position on the road, but 2nd in the pro category.
This is the last race on American soil this year for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series. The next time that they take a green flag, it will be in the middle of November in Vallelunga, Italy. So there is a little bit of honor to be had by winning the final race in the States. But it doesn't mean you win the championship just yet. It's not all said and done. Ryan Hardwick, who has Shinya Mashimi's car, Brandon Godovic now driving it behind him. That would be for the 6th position on track. Again, not a class battle. Hardwick, who is 2nd in AM right now, about 3.5 behind Damon Oakey. He would be okay with Brandon Godovic going ahead of him, I would imagine, because then Brandon sort of clears a bit of a way and hopefully drags him along to his championship rival, Damon Oakey.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Just watching Loris Spinelli's lap time. The 22-year-old Italian is in car number 71 in that Pro-Am car run by P1 Motorsports, and the gap between himself and Trent Hinman, 4.2 seconds. The gap between the 1st and 2nd place cars had been pretty stable, about 4.5 seconds. That was before Spinelli found his way past Madison Snow. So now we will see how much faster Loris Spinelli can go now that he has clear track, and whether with 10 minutes remaining he can close the deficit to the race leader Trent Hinman.
Eduardo Piscopo is leaving the pit lane once again. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near even 50% laps complete though, Jeremy. They've done 5 so far compared to 23 of the leaders. So a nightmare situation for the number 50 crew. Not the weekend that they were hoping for. US Racetronics not going to be thrilled with this race.
No, most unfortunate. They're just in the wrong place and the wrong time.
Yep.
At the beginning there was Taylor Proto. So nothing. No, it wasn't his fault in any way, shape, or form, but
No.
very much the kind of innocent victim there.
Would be a bit of redemption, though, at least if Damon Oakey can come home with the win. He runs for that team as well, and he is leading in the AM category. This battling duo, though, of Ryan Hardwick and Brandon Godovic is closing up on Damon Oakey, so if they can just behave a little bit, as long as Godovic doesn't take Hardwick's focus away and Hardwick just keeps looking forward, we might wind up with a 3-car battle for the 5th place overall, and that AM lead.
Well, there's battles all the way around this 2.25 mile racetrack here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca. Watching here the battle between Ryan Hardwick and Brandon Godovic. Godovic, of course, is a pro car. Hardwick is an AM, second in AM behind Damon Oakey, who leads. But I was just watching the race leader Trent Hinman, who's now coming up on a 3-car battle. Cars on different laps, actually, and he's got to work his way through those. And looming in his mirrors all the time is that green and white machine. There it is, car number 71. Number 47 car, that's Dr. Alex Marmarano, who is a couple of laps down, but he's got to get past him in order to chase that man heading off down towards the ready hairpin. As our race leader Trent Hinman in car number 1.
Laura Spinelli looking for a way around the outside of Dr. Alex, and Dr. Alex moves to the outside to leave a clear path. Marmarano making a very distinct impression of where he wanted Spinelli to try and get by, and Loris does just that. Trent Hinman focusing forward, a second and a half gap. It has come down a bunch over the last few laps. 1.6 seconds taken out of Trent Hinman the last time around.
That's right, and that's a result of Trent Hinman trying to he was the first guy to encounter that traffic. He had to find his way through, and Loris Spinelli kind of taking advantage of that, because he could see, or the lapped cars knew there was cars coming up behind him, and they were able to get out of the way a little bit and leave him a little bit easier passage through that traffic. So now the gap less than a second and a half, and still with 7 minutes remaining.
Trent Hinman doesn't need to win the race overall to take home the maximum number of points in the pro category, and he is still very much in that championship as well. It should be the number 29 Change Racing crew, Madison Snow and Corey Lewis, reclaiming the championship lead. But with that number 1 machine getting the maximum amount of points out of today's race, well, that certainly wouldn't hurt anything. Trent Hinman would be aware of that, and he would also know Laura Spinelli and the desire, the passion, the need to get the overall win, seemingly, from that number 71 crew. You don't want to throw it all away for the overall win when it means you're still getting the same amount of points. Trent Hinman is a smart cookie. He'll be knowing that before the team can even tell him anything on the radio. 6.5 minutes to go. The gap is 1.3 seconds from first to second. The number 1, Trent Hinman, leading the number 71 of Laura Spinelli, and Spinelli pushing hard, drops 2 wheels off the left side at the exit of turn 4, and Dr. Alex Marmarano goes for another spin. That is in car number 47. He is parked pretty much underneath the Continental Tire Bridge, just at the exit of turn 3.
Yeah, that's a pretty dodgy place to be.
Yeah. Just waiting for him to refire the car. There we go. Now he gets it pointed in the right direction, drives off-road, but no harm, no foul. And the battle for the lead is on. Trent Hinman with Cameron Castles right in front of him. A team car for the Wayne Taylor Racing Organization. Castles pulls over towards driver's left to let the battle through. Very classy driving. Castles, a longtime co-driver of Trent Hinman, will have been aware who that was looming in his mirror, but will also see that Trent is under some pressure. I'm very impressed that Castles did not try to get in the way of that battle, though. That would have been a strong temptation to see a team car in that sort of a situation, to want to help your teammate, but instead to just say, nope, let the racing gods have their way with it.
Yeah, he's a proper sportsman, is Cameron Castles. So, as you say, He's only been around racing 3 or 4 years, but he's certainly gained a lot of experience during that time, driving all sorts of different cars. So he knows when to take the fight to somebody and when not to. And that was clearly an opportunity there just to let those guys go and perhaps even try and follow them, maybe learn a thing or two. Once again, Loris Spinelli there using every inch of the road and more, the exit of turn 4, in his efforts to catch up with Trent Hinman.
And catching Trent is one thing, passing him is another. Even though Spinelli is within half a second of our leader in that number 1 machine, he still has to get around him, and that is easier said than done. as they take the climb up that long hill, the rail straight up to the corkscrew, braking, turn left, dive over the bottom of the corkscrew. The road disappears for Trent Hinman, but he believes it's still there, and it is as they continue to fall story after story, approaching turn 10, the second to last corner on this track. Before they set up, let the cars run out to the left and pull them back over to the right. Spinelli has a look and thinks better of it, falls back into line. You want a good run out of turn 11 because the straight can feel very long if you don't have a good run and you just watch the car ahead of you get smaller and smaller. But Loris Spinelli still on the tail. He will have every inch of that number 1 machine memorized. Jeremy?
Yes, this is a fascinating battle because contact between the two there, and Spinelli rubs the rear end of Hinman's car. Trent Hinman doesn't really like that.
No.
And he's going to take exception. He's not going to make things easy for Spinelli here. Spinelli's going to try and get the inside line into turn 4. That's dodgy. I say he's made the pass. That was a very forceful move there by Spinelli as he pushes Hinman off the road on the exit. This is a battle for position on the road, but it's not a class battle. And I think both of these two, or particularly Trent Hinman, he has to look at the big picture here. He's had a difficult start to the season, lost a lot of ground yesterday in the championship, but the championship aspiration is not over for that team, and he needs to get as many points as he can. He will still get the maximum points in the pro class if he can bring that car home in second place.
And the important thing that Trent Hinman will be aware of is that Madison Snow is 6 seconds behind him. That is the good news, is we get another opportunity to see the attempted pass going into turn 2. Spinelli came from a long way back and carried more speed through the apex of turn 2, but whereas Hinman got on the brakes to pull the car back into the second part of the apex, Spinelli just left it wide open and used Trent as a bit of a buffer.
He did, and I fancy the stewards might want to have a look at that one as well. I mean, it was the same sort of instance we've seen earlier on. We've seen penalties given out, so I'm sure I'd be surprised if we didn't see an under investigation.
The only thing I can think of is maybe Spinelli has a bit more of tires left under him. Maybe he had a bit more grip coming through that portion of the track, and maybe he just managed to get a bit more traction than Trent did.
Sure.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there, but I definitely agree with you. I think the stewards will want to see that on instant replay maybe once or twice. And we certainly did, because it's fun to watch. But Loris Spinelli now leads in the number 71 for P1 Motorsports. We've got 1 minute and 45 seconds left in round number 10 of this championship. Hard to believe, we're already in double digits. The season has just flown by. Trent Hinman, second overall, but leading the Pro-Am class ahead of Madison Snow in the number 29 machine for Change Racing. Fourth overall and second in Pro-Am, Mike Headland doing a fantastic job in the number 63 machine. Damon Oakey, our AM leader, is in fifth. Behind him, Ryan Hardwick is still fighting off Brandon Godovic. Hardwick in the AM class, Godovic in the Pro, running second and third in their classes respectively. They have been tethered together. I think somebody forgot to cut the bungee cord between those two cars this morning.
Well, they have, and Ryan Hardwick, he's only 2 seconds behind Damon Oakey, and that is the battle for the AM class honours as the white flag is brandished there to Loris Spinelli and Trent Hinman at the front of the field.
1.5 seconds is the gap that Spinelli has been able to pull out over Trent Hinman, near enough over that last lap. So very impressive. Madison Snow in third. He is 5.5 seconds back, so he managed to pull in a little bit on him in the last time around. In LB Cup, it is the other P1 Motorsports machine, the other green and black Lamborghini leading. That would be Brett Meredith, who holds nearly a 10-second gap over second in class, and our championship leaders in the number 8, Paris Mullins, so he'll be okay with the fact that he's in second this weekend. For Loris Spinelli, another climb up toward the corkscrew. Last time that he will have to do this at any sort of racing speed this year. Takes the left-hander, goes down the right, runs perfectly to the edge of the track, setting up for turn 9. Just doesn't even come close to hitting the apex on that one, Jeremy. I think Spinelli has run out of tires finally as he goes through turn 10. Off to driver's left, pulls the car back over to the right, on the brakes hard, getting ready for the turn into 11. And then the sweet moment of release. You don't have to turn the steering wheel anymore, so we can stick a hand out the window. And the win goes to the number 71, Laura Spinelli and JC Perez, overall winners and Pro-Am in the Pro class. Big round of applause for Trent Hinman and Jonathan Cicotto in the number 1 machine for Wayne Taylor Racing. They get the Pro win. It's Madison Snow and Corey Lewis who come home second in the number 29 as we wait for our AM leader to come see the checkered flag. It's almost all downhill from here, Damon. You just have to make it up that little bit at the start-finish line to claim the checker, but he's 2 corners to go before the Canadian will get that honor. And behind him, Ryan Hardwick now in camera shot, less than 2 seconds back. Damon Oakey makes it out of the final turn, though, gets the power down, so Hardwick will see the car he is chasing, but it will not be an opportunity because Damon Oakey gets the win in the AM category. The 09 comes home ahead of the number 2 of Ryan Hardwick. It's still Ryan Hardwick leading the championship. And for LB Cup, it is a weekend sweep for P1 Motorsports. Both of the Lamborghinis that wear the livery of the Chupacabra will get the victory as Brett Meredith, first weekend running with the team, delivers the checkered flag to them in the number 66 Lamborghini ahead of Paris Mullins and Mark Proto in the number 88 in LB Cup. Third in that category is Justin Price.
Well, brilliant stuff for another 50 minutes packed with action from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series. My thanks to Shea Adam and to Jeremy Shaw. Before we sign off, Jeremy is doing a little bit of just a little bit of arithmetic very quickly after an action-packed start to the race, and that had championship implications, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, very much so, and it'll kind of depend. The results from yesterday are still provisional at this stage, but this was certainly an action-packed race, and if Taylor Proto and Eduardo Principe have completed enough distance to score some points, they will get 8 points, and they will have 118 points. That would be 1 more than Corey Lewis and Madison Snow. So going to the final weekend, just 1 point between those two.
Thanks very much for joining us. We have more racing throughout the rest of the season for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo 10th edition here on IMSA and IMSA TV.